Hey, we're back with the HY111, and we're moving on to the Phoenicians now. We just did the Philistines, now the Phoenicians. Again, these are Indo-Europeans moving into the Fertile Crescent area. So the Phoenicians will come in, also a new people, and establish an empire. They will establish themselves also on the coast of the Mediterranean, but a little further north than the Philistines. They will set up a collection of cities. And they're still around today, the city of Tyre, the city of Sidon, the city of Byblos. These are ancient Phoenician cities, still going today. These guys become the traders throughout the Med. These will be before the Greeks and the Romans, these guys would have been handling all the trade. They're not super military, although they're military, they did have one. Their big moneymaker is this purple dye. It's a dye that's very hard to obtain. It's obtained from little tiny seashells, little tiny mussels and things that have to be ground up, and it takes 50,000 of these little tiny shells to make one drop of dye. So purple dye became extremely expensive. It became the stuff of kings. If you saw something in purple, you knew they were super, super rich. So this was their big money maker, but they made money on everything else too, sailing around the Mediterranean and moving goods around. This keeps them independent. There will be empires around them, very strong, powerful empires, and these Phoenicians will be able to stay independent. Later on, we'll see Alexander the Great attacking these people, and because of their independence. Here's an example. Today, one of these cities, I'm not sure which one this is. I think this is Sidon, modern city on the Mediterranean coast, still there. So these Phoenicians, once they start to trade and make money on this and realize they're really good at it, they will establish colonies all around them, start spreading out. This kind of reminds you of Walmart, start to move from Arkansas into other states and then just eventually take over the trade of everything. So from Phoenicia down to North Africa, one of their famous North African colonies is Carthage. We'll hear more about this later on because these Carthaginians will be Rome's arch enemy. They will make it all the way to the coast of Spain. So this will be all the way across the Mediterranean, from one side to the other of the Mediterranean. And there's even some speculation they made it to England. There's strange objects found in England that might be Phoenician in origin. So they were definitely explorers, ancient explorers, trying to find new markets and new materials. And being traders, this focus on trade, how can they do it better? How can they do it better than anybody else? And they come up with a record keeping called the alphabet. Yes, this is what you're looking at in front of you right now. They came up with that. It's a phonetic alphabet to where each one of these symbols that you're looking at here, this one and this one and this one and this one, all make different sounds. So when you hear anybody, you're talking to anyone, you can write these down. You can hear someone speaking Chinese and write their sounds down using this phonetic alphabet. They come up with 22 symbols, and each of the symbols represents a sound. So if you say Quitsack Hatterack, you may never have heard that before, but you can write it down based on the sounds that you're hearing. And this makes it great for international trade as you're dealing with all kinds of different languages and all kinds of different people, and you're trying to record their financial transactions. This is a much simpler method of doing it. And they also will start using paper. They're on ships all the time, and these mud tablets just don't work. Ancient hieroglyphs don't work, so they come up with a writing system and put it on paper. In fact, they will realize the importance of paper, and we realize this even 2,000 years later. We're starting to get away from paper, but this is 3,000 years later, 3,000 years earlier, this concept of paper becomes really important. In fact, the city of Byblos will get a monopoly on the paper trade from Egypt, is where it's grown, papyrus grown in Egypt, and Byblos, well, it's where we get the word Bible from. The city, if you want to make a book, you've got to go to Byblos to get the paper. And this writing system becomes accepted throughout the Mediterranean. Everybody, if you're going to deal with anybody, you're going to deal with the Phoenicians, and you've got to learn their writing system. So all through the Mediterranean, this will be the new way of writing. In fact, it will be adopted by the Hebrews. They will look at this and adopt it into their writing system. And the Greeks also. The Greeks will see this as they come out of their dark ages around 700 and begin to pick up this Phoenician phonetic system. And the Greeks, being really, really bright, will add the vowels to it. These 22 letters were originally just consonant sounds, which can lead to some confusion, and the Greeks will recognize the confusion and add the vowels, which really helps clarify these sounds. So here you can kind of see it here. you've got these Phoenician writing system here based on A, B, G, D. So A, B, G, D. This writing system, which the Greeks will then adopt, pretty much almost letter for letter. And then the Romans will come along and like it also and change it, but you almost see kind of, they almost flip it like a mirror image of these letters until modern English will pick it up from the Latin. Interesting. And we'll stop there and we'll come back with the Israelites.